So when it comes to performing, or rather optimizing our performance, whether it's taking the stage and playing an instrument, or public speaking, or playing our sport, whatever it is, or running a business meeting, when it comes to optimizing our performance, it's not about being robotic or about not showing our emotions or pretending that we've got everything together when in actuality inside we're barely hanging on. It's not about any of that. It's also not about just focus and concentration and getting it so you don't even know anyone else is in the room. That's not the approach to optimizing our performance. My approach is that it's about how do we relate to what's actually happening inside our body, inside our mind, in the moment. So our body, our nervous system, it's going to have a visceral reaction to what's going on. Whether we're on stage and there's 100 people in the audience and 30 of them are on their phones, 2 of them are looking away, there are cues coming at us of uncertainty, of risk, of disinterest, whatever it is. We are going to have a bodily reaction to the environment around us when we're taking the stage or when we're in a competitive environment. There will be a bodily reaction. It's not about not having that reaction. It's about what do we do? How do we relate to that reaction? Part of that reaction is a change in our physiology. There might be a change in our heart rate or our breathing or our muscle tension, how our body's moving, our metabolic output. Those are adaptive, reflexive responses to the challenge in the environment in which we are performing. We're going to have those. Secondarily to that, we're going to have stories, beliefs, narratives that arise to make sense of how we're feeling, to make sense of the environment, to make sense of how this challenge is impacting us. The key is, how do we relate to the story, and how do we relate to the bodily response that is being reflexively triggered by the challenge, by wanting to really do our best, by doing something that's so important to us that we've been practicing and strategizing and training and preparing for. So let's acknowledge it's really important, and we will have a bodily reaction to the challenge, to the environment, to the stage. And the key now is, how do we relate to that? How do we relate to our feelings in our body? How do we relate to the stories we're making up to make sense of those feelings in our body? And that's it. That's it. There's nothing magic. And it also doesn't mean that each time that we perform, each time that we take the stage, each time we interact in a competitive environment, or even each time we face a challenging conversation, doesn't mean that we're going to be able to be with and relate to that experience in a way that realigns our physiology and realigns our psychology to match our intentions or to match our values or to be able to display our skill set and our highest potential. It doesn't mean that we'll be able to do that every time. But what it does mean is we have an understanding of what's really going on. We have some resources that we can employ to help ourselves. And when we do come up short, which we will, we can relate to ourselves in a different way. Maybe with a little less shame, maybe a little less guilt and blame, which means we can come back into our own felt sense of enoughness that we can then repair the damage we might feel in ourselves or the damage that occurred on the stage. And that's really what this is all about. Changing how we relate to our own adaptive, reflexive, bodily reactions to challenge.